As a brain doctor, I'm shocked. This 40-second trick could save your life now. Do not miss this. The crowded lecture hall buzzed with chatter, eyes gleaming with curiosity. Dr. Leonard Moore, renowned neuroscientist, stood at the front, his expression a mix of excitement and urgency. He was about to reveal something that could change everything. A whisper rippled through the audience, growing louder. What is the trick? Can it really save lives? You could feel the tension in the air, thick as fog. He cleared his throat, his hands trembling slightly. What I'm about to share isn't just theory, he started, inching closer to the microphone. The overhead lights flickered, casting eerie shadows as he continued. It's something so unexpected, it defies all logic. It could very well be the key to unlocking your mind's potential. He paused, allowing the weight of his words to sink in. People leaned forward, eyes wide, hearts racing. No one dared to breathe. From the back, someone shouted, "Get to the point." Dr. Moore winced but pressed on. In just 40 seconds, you can reset your brain. This isn't just about memory. It's about survival. The room erupted in murmurs. Faces twisted in disbelief. Could this be real? He glanced around, gauging their reactions, and when his gaze locked on a young woman, a tightness gripped his chest. She looked terrified, as if she was hanging on the edge of hope and despair. Imagine your mind exploding with clarity. Your fears fading away. His voice dropped, drawing everyone in. A pulse echoed in the room, deepening the suspense. Sweat trickled down the side of his face. He felt it, the pressure, the urgency. But listen closely, there's a catch. It requires total commitment. You can't half-ass this. The audience gasped collectively. What do you have to lose? He pressed. People exchanged glances, some nodding, others shaking their heads in disbelief. The air crackled with anticipation. And in that moment, Dr. Moore knew he had them. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Dr. Moore took a deep breath again, his heart pounding. This is where it gets dark. He stepped back, allowing the gravity of his message to hit hard. You want to just be unlocking your potential. You're facing the shadow lurking in your mind. Are you brave enough? The audience stirred, whispers floating like ghosts around the room. Silence fell, thick and heavy. The walls felt as though they might close in. A single bead of cold sweat ran down Dr. Moore's back. What was inside those 40 seconds? What truths would be revealed? And, in that moment, who would emerge unscathed? The silence was palpable, like an uninvited tension constricting everyone's throats. Dr. Moore scanned the crowd, taking in a sea of desperate faces. He sensed it, the raw fear mingling with an almost desperate need for hope. The young woman he'd locked eyes with earlier now stood on the brink of tears, her resolve wavering. Have you ever felt trapped in your own mind? He continued, his voice barely above a whisper. Like you're a prisoner of your thoughts? This trick, I call it the reset. It's not easy, but it can bring light into the darkest corners of your psyche. He swallowed hard, knowing he was inching closer to unveiling something that could either save or condemn him. The reset requires you to confront your greatest fears. It can unleash memories long buried, regrets that gnaw at your soul. But that illumination could also push you to a revelation so profound that it could change everything. He heard a low murmur ripple through the audience, discomfort hanging thick in the air. What happens if we can't handle it? Someone yelled from the front. The question cut through the tension like a knife, and Dr. Moore's heart raced. Would they turn back? Fear could choke off their courage just when they needed it most. You can't emerge unchanged. You risk everything. But for every shadow, there is an opportunity for clarity, he replied, holding their gaze. The room felt heavier, almost suffocating. A flame ignited inside him, the urgency of his mission pulsing fiercely. Suddenly, the lights flickered again, and the projector displayed a haunting image of a distorted brain scan. This is what happens when fear goes unchecked, he declared. Gasps filled the room. The woman's voice shattered the silence. What if I can't face it? What if it breaks me? Dr. Moore's chest tightened. Then this is your moment. Make this choice. His eyes darted to her, willing her to see the truth, however painful. This is about confronting the demons that have kept you from living your life to the fullest. Each of you holds a unique key waiting to turn. An unsettling silence enveloped the hall. Then he threw down the gauntlet. If you dare to take it on, follow my lead through these 40 seconds. I promise, you'll discover who you truly are. As Dr. Moore prepared to demonstrate the reset, the audience shifted restlessly. Faces transformed from horror to curiosity, from disbelief to the faintest glimmer of hope. He stepped closer, heart pounding. I need a volunteer, he said, scanning the crowd. A few tentative hands rose, but one stood out. The young woman, her face pale but resolute, shot her hand up. She looked determined to embrace whatever came next, drawing collective gasps from the room. Are you sure? Dr. Moore asked, his voice low. Something flickered in her eyes, a mixture of dread and courage. This is your decision, and it's not to be taken lightly. I'm ready, she replied, her voice steady. With every passing second, the gravity of their choices would carve pathways into their minds, unraveling truths best left untouched. Dr. Moore felt that familiar pulse of dread and unshakable feeling that they were crossing a threshold they might never return from. What memories would surface? What horrors lay hidden in the dark corners of her past? As he prepared to initiate the reset, a sudden power outage plunged the hall into darkness. Panic erupted, gasps echoing like ghosts. In that fleeting moment of chaos, a high-pitched scream pierced the silence. What had they truly awakened? The scream echoed through the pitch-black hall, slicing through the growing uncertainty like steel through flesh. Dr. Moore's heart pounded. The air was thick with panic, a raw, palpable fear, and all he could think was, how long would it last? Everyone stay calm, he yelled, but his own voice rang hollow against the walls. The chaos around him felt electric, a chaotic dance of emotions wrapping itself around each terrified soul. The faint glow of emergency lights flickered to life, drawing shadows across frightened faces. Dr. Moore scanned the crowd, searching for the young woman. Where was she? A soft whimper came from the front. He caught sight of her, hands trembling at her sides, eyes wide and searching. I can't see. What is happening? Just breathe. Focus on your breath. Dr. Moore shouted over the noise. The reset had to happen. It was their only chance to break free from the shackles of fear. He moved closer, feeling the tug of desperation around him. In the dim light, he could see others clutching at each other, whispering fragments of panic. One man screamed, "What if we can't go back?" Dr. Moore stepped before the young woman, willing her focus. Listen to me, he said, lowering his voice. We can't lose this moment. Whatever haunts you, we'll face it together. It's primal, I know, but remember, illumination comes from confronting darkness. He felt her trembling begin to ease, if only slightly. Just then, the lights blared back on, flooding the room, a blinding wave of brightness that exposed the chaos. Dr. Moore blinked, adjusting to the sudden change. The faces in the crowd were awash with confusion, but something hung heavier in the air. The tension had shifted, become more charged, like the still moments before a summer storm. Are you ready? he asked the young woman. She nodded, albeit hesitantly. The room held its breath. 40 seconds. We'll dive deep into your fears. The projector whirred back to life, loading their memories, the raw edges of what they were about to confront flickering dangerously. He took her wrist in his hand, feeling her pulse a rapid drumbeat beneath his fingers. Trust me. As he initiated the reset, the screen erupted into chaos, images of her past swirling violently as thoughts took shape and shade. Faces flashed by, moments of laughter turning to shadows. The younger version of her, smiling, carefree, fading into scenes of darkness that gripped her heart. Dr. Moore's gaze locked with hers. What do you see? Tears streamed down her cheeks. So much pain, I don't want to go there. Let it come. Feel it all, he urged, his own heart racing. The atmosphere buzzed, as if danger flirted at the edges of reality. He felt it to a tightness that stung in his lungs. It took everything in him not to let fear worm its way into his mind. Suddenly, the noise shifted, transforming into a cacophony of whispers. Harsh truths flooded the room, accompanied by shrieks of panic. You can't face this, echoed voices from the shadows around the crowd. And then, the young woman screamed again, a sound that shattered the fragile space they were in. It's too much. I can't. Before Dr. Moore could react, the projector flickered, a static crackle swallowed her cries, merging them into something almost otherworldly. As if magic turned to horror, darkness reemerged, the light sputtered, and the last image she saw froze in theatrical despair. A falling face. The young woman's expression twisted with horror. Was that her long-lost brother? He'd been gone for years. The crowd gasped collectively as shock rippled like electricity through the air. What buried truths had the reset unearthed? What darkness awaited them all? As the tension snapped again and the lights danced, flickering ominously, Dr. Moore knew they had reached a point of no return. Prepare yourselves, he shouted, feeling the tremors of uncertainty and fear seize the entire space again. The reset was just the beginning. Oh, they had no idea what lay ahead. The room shivered with an electric tension, like a taut string ready to snap. Dr. Moore felt the weight of the crowd's gaze on him, pressed under the collective anxiety. The young woman stumbled back, her eyes wide with confusion and terror. No! It can't be him, she whimpered, clutching her head, as if to block out the haunting reminder of loss. Focus on me, Dr. Moore urged, but his voice felt small against the rising tide of chaos. Shadows danced in the corners of the room, echoing the fear swirling in the air. He could see panic rippling through the others, their faces pale, eyes wide. Some dropped to the floor, while others backed away, desperate to flee the flood of memories crashing around them. But there was nowhere to escape. The projector emitted a low hum, and the flickering images seemed to pulse, beating in time with the throbbing dread in Dr. Moore's chest. He had to keep the young woman anchored. Listen, your brother is gone, but the weight you carry doesn't have to crush you. We're going to peel back the layers until we find the truth hidden beneath. A raspy voice interrupted from the shadows. What if you wake the demons? What if they don't stay buried this time? Dr. Moore's heart jolted. He shouldn't be dealing with something this dark. Yet, here they were. As he faced the crowd, he saw the hesitation molding their expressions, stuck between fear and hope. We can't let fear win, he yelled. We owe it to ourselves to find the light. Together, we can confront this darkness. He stepped forward, flattening the gap between him and the trembling woman. Dig deep. What do you feel? Remember, this is your journey. Face it with me. As he spoke, the once chaotic screen now transformed into vivid scenes, each frame more intimate and revealing than the last. The young woman shivered as images of her childhood flooded back, moments of joy intertwined with shadows of dread. He could see her struggle in her eyes, dancing between powerful memories, ones that clung like ivy around her heart, squeezing. "Tell me," Dr. Moore demanded, pushing through the chaos around him. "What is the root of this fear?" Her breathing came fast. I was supposed to protect him. I let him go." At that moment, a sound rang out as shattering glass, or was it her heart breaking all over again? The projector crackled, losing its clarity. It was as if something was fighting back, determined not to be unveiled. "No!" He surged forward, desperate to hold on to the fleeting moment of clarity. "Let it flow. You are stronger than the pain. This is your fight to reclaim." And then, the lights dimmed sharply, plunging them into a heavy darkness. The suffocating silence that felt almost unbearable. But then came a whisper, the sound of something rising, something ancient. "You cannot escape the truth." Dr. Moore gripped the young woman's wrist, feeling the frantic beating of her pulse mingling with the terror around them. "Stay with me. Whatever it is, we can confront it." A flicker returned. The lights popped back on, and for a brief second, the room felt altered. A darkness deeper than before now sat heavy, brooding in the corners. Everyone stared wide-eyed, catching glimpses of the specters hidden within their own minds. "Look!" someone shouted. New images flooded the screen. It was a montage of past events. The young woman's brother, trapped in moments of laughter intercut with scenes that hinted at danger. The stakes were higher now, his face distorted in fear, flashbacks playing like film glitches. "It's not just you." Dr. Moore's voice was urgency wrapped in compassion. "We're all connected. Our fears bound us together. What if this reset isn't just for individual journeys, but a collective understanding of our shared pain?" The weight of his words sank into the crowd, stealing their breath. But fear fought back hard. Some moaned softly, others covered their ears, unwilling to look into the abyss. And just when it seemed the truth would rise, the projector sputtered once again, a final burst of static before silence reclaimed the room. Dr. Moore's heart raced as he felt icy fingers of doubt clawing at him. "This isn't over. We cannot succumb to fear." But as the shadows thickened, a scream echoed, a guttural sound that felt more primal and more desperate than any they had encountered that night. What had he unleashed? The reset pushed onward into uncharted territory, and as the crowd began to quake in unison, Dr. Moore could only wonder and dread the confrontation that was about to unfold. "Hold on," he called, grabbing the arm of the young woman. "This is only the beginning." But even as he spoke, the air buzzed with an ominous certainty. What waited next was going to change them all forever. The room pulsed with an oppressive energy, like the drumroll before a storm. Dr. Moore could feel the weight of dread rising, thickening the air with unspoken fears. The young woman stood frozen beside him, her eyes darting around, desperately searching for understanding or an escape. He squeezed her hand tighter, a lifeline amidst the rising tide. "We're still here. Focus on your memories, no matter how painful. They are the key." But as she tried to concentrate, the screen flared to life once more, revealing images that made even the bravest among them recoil. The stark horror of what lay ahead was becoming clearer. Dreadful faces twisted in agony, and moments of betrayal interspersed with the innocent joys of childhood. Dr. Moore's heart raced as he witnessed the anguish reflected in the crowd. "Don't look away," he shouted, desperate to rally them. "We can do this together." The whispers of doubt echoed around him. "No, it's too much. Just stop it," a voice cried out from the corner. Panic flared like a match struck in the dark. A crack in the projected images revealed something shifting, as shadows slithering like fog between the frames. It twisted, turning the familiar faces of lost loved ones into grotesque parodies of their former selves. The young woman trembled, the grip on his hand slackening as her face blanched in horror. "There. Do you see it?" Dr. Moore shouted, leaning in closer, urgency dripping from his voice. "This is what we must face. Not just the memories, but what they've become in our minds, the burdens we carry. He could feel the collective disbelief, a wave of resistance washing over them. The room swayed with a cacophony of discordant emotions, mumbles of fear vibrating from all sides. Suddenly, the projector hiccuped and jolted. What was meant to be a window into healing morphed into a dark vortex, spinning out of control. The lights flickered. A sharp crack of electricity shot across the room, illuminating panic-stricken faces wide with horror. "Close your eyes!" Someone screamed, but it was too late. The screen erupted in chaos, screams, flashes of horrific images, moments of betrayal. Dr. Moore desperately sought out the young woman. "Listen," he pleaded, his voice breaking through the clamor. "It's all part of the reset. We must confront these manifestations head-on." As if in answer, the shadow grew bolder. A meandering figure slipped through the flickering light, unshackled from memory, and now solidifying into something real. The crowd gasped, choking on fear. They were no longer spectators. They were part of something raw and terrifying. "What is that?" someone whimpered, as the figure coalesced, its features a dark silhouette against the brighter chaos of the past. "It's your fear taking form," Dr. Moore shouted, his voice cracking but firm. "Face it. Look at it. Only then can we gather the strength to beat it." But it loomed large, creeping forward, and with every inch it gained, screams melded into a chorus of agony. It was as if the very air constricted around them, suffocating their resolve. The young woman's face reflected the horror, a mirror of the danger that now encroached. "I can't!" she cried, stumbling back, her body almost tangling with the others. "I can dig deep," Dr. Moore yelled, desperation fueling his words. "You have to see through it. In fear lies your freedom. Let it go." The shadow pulsed, drawing strength from their fear, an entity that lived off their despair. The screams grew louder, echoing back at them as shadows morphed and twisted. Laughter mingled with the cries for help. The room felt like it was closing in, and just as it seemed the darkness would claim them, Dr. Moore caught a glimpse of something unexpected, a flicker of light buried within the gathering fear. "Together!" he shouted again, igniting a spark of defiance. "Let it go!" The crowd teetered on the brink, horror blending with hope. Would they stand together, or would the shadows consume everything they had? The moment of truth hung in the air, and Dr. Moore steadied himself, taking a deep breath. The eruption of emotions around him surged, reaching a crescendo. He had touched something primal. But just as they prepared to confront their shadows, the lights flickered violently for one last time, leaving nothing but a haunting void in its wake. The darkness roared, tasting triumph. What lay ahead would surely test their very souls. The scary shadows twisted and writhed in the dark. Dr. Moore could almost hear them whispering sinister secrets. The room was a battleground of emotions, fear clashing with hope, and it felt like the very walls were closing in around them. "What is happening?" The voice of the young woman broke the silence, a tremor gnawing at her words. Her grip on Dr. Moore's hand had gone slack, and her breathing was ragged. She looked like a deer caught in headlights, paralyzed by terror. "Stay with me," Dr. Moore urged, shaking her gently. "We can't back down now. If we want to fight, we have to face the darkness." But the shadows thickened, swirling, dragging away all traces of courage. The cacophony of screams filled the air again, a cruel reminder of their fear. Dr. Moore felt sweat trickle down his back. This was not the moment to falter. It was time to stand firm. "Focus!" he shouted, trying to project confidence. "Remember a time when you felt safe, when laughter echoed around you. Let that light inside you flare up." In the crowd, he saw faces twisted in anguish. Each person was grappling with their own fears, their own darkness. He felt the weight of their collective despair. Could they truly conquer this darkness that had taken form before them? Suddenly, A figure sprang forth from the darkness, a grotesque version of what once might have been a loved one, their horror mirrored in the eyes of the crowd. Gasps filled the room, like gunshots, each one driving the fear deeper into their souls. "Don't look away. Fight against it," Dr. Moore yelled. "Find the light. Now!" He pushed against the tide of dread with everything he had, but the shadows withdrew and then struck again, like snakes lunging forward, seeking to drag them back down into the abyss. The room trembled with their cries, the vibrations echoing in Dr. Moore's chest. Then he noticed the young woman again, her face pale but angry determination flickering in her eyes. "I can do this," she shouted, each word a weapon against the shadow. "I won't let you take me." With that, a palpable shift happened. A flicker of light began to swirl around her like a halo. It was weak at first, but it grew as she focused on her cherished memories, the warmth of a summer day, the laughter of friends, pure moments of joy. The energy shifted in the room, as though the very air began to buzz with a strange electricity, almost palpable. "See!" Dr. Moore exclaimed, as other faces began to light up in recognition. "Feel that power. You're stronger than your fear. It's always been inside of you." The young woman raised her chin, her fear turned to fire. She joined her voice with the others, crying out against the shadow. The dim figure hesitated, shadows momentarily disrupted by their collective light. Together, they echoed, united in their defiance. With every ounce of will, they surged forward, pushing against the encroaching gloom. The shadow bucked against their resolve, shrieking with anger. The dark energy flexed and pulsated wildly, but it couldn't hold against their purity. Dr. Moore felt the rush of hope become an unstoppable force. Just as they thought they might win, the darkness writhed afresh. Something deeper, a heart of shadows, an entity that felt almost sentient, roared as it clawed and twisted, fighting back with a force they couldn't understand. Its tendrils grasped greedily at the flickering light, desperate to snuff it out. Dr. Moore's heart pounded. His body felt heavy, ready to collapse under the weight of the unfolding chaos. "Keep pushing," he shouted, but a part of him trembled with doubt. Then, just as hope felt within grasp, shadows lashed out furiously, and the light began to flicker, straining against the powerful darkness that steadily closed in. "What is happening?" someone cried out in despair as the cacophony surged again, threatening to drown out their resolve. And then, with frightening suddenness, came a silence so heavy that it felt like a weight pressing down on their chests. Then, cracks of laughter erupted against the quiet, a sound that was theirs, filling the room once more. What they didn't see was the truth lurking just out of reach. What awaited them in the darkness was more than they could have ever imagined. The laughter hung in the air, a chilling echo that seemed to seep into their very bones. It bubbled with malice, each chuckle a taunt that twisted their stomachs in knots. "What was that?" a voice quavered, nerves frayed and breaths quickening. The faces in the crowd turned to each other, eyes wide, mouth dry, uncertainty gnawing at their insides. Dr. Moore glanced around, his heart drumming in a frantic rhythm. He couldn't tell if the shadows were recoiling or regrouping. "Stay focused," he demanded, forcing confidence into his voice. "Do not let it break your spirit. We have the light." The woman beside him gritted her teeth. "We have to believe," she whispered, her gaze fixed on the darkness where the sinister laughter coalesced. She inched forward, her determination igniting something within the crowd, each moment of bravery heralding another layer of light that flickered back to life. But the shadows seemed to morph, their edges becoming sharper, more defined. Through the darkness, grotesque shapes writhed, no longer mere distractions but full-bodied horrors that reeled forward. Dr. Moore felt his resolve waver as the weight of despair sank deeper. "They know our fears," he muttered, feeling reckless desperation clawing at his throat. "They're feeding off us." Just then, Another wave of shadows surged ahead, rapidly converging on the young woman. They reached out, tendrils probing, searching for weaknesses, intent on snuffing out her burgeoning flame. Panic erupted like wildfire. "No!" she yelled defiantly, the light around her intensifying. "Fear is nothing compared to hope." A burst of brightness erupted from her soul, pushing back against the advancing darkness. The walls of the room shimmered with luminous vestiges of joy, fractured pieces of memories, dancing like spirits around them. "This is our fight!" Dr. Moore shouted over the rising turmoil. His heart raced as he rallied their trembling spirits. "What do we fear most? Let it rise. Let it be a catalyst for our strength. We're more powerful together. Show them." Their collective cries crescendoed, mingling with the radiance that pulsated from their hearts. Faces lit with memories, laughter, even tears of loved ones long gone. The light spiraled upward, tangible enough to touch, illuminating the shadows that recoiled uncomfortably. Then it happened. A deeper figure emerged from the abyss, tall and amorphous, clad in darkness, mockery given form. Its eyes gleamed with a sinister hunger, and as it stepped forward, the air grew thick, pregnant with dread. Everyone cowered in instinctive fear, save for the young woman. She pointed at the looming figure. "You don't own us. We are not your puppets." Dr. Moore felt a swell of pride in her bravery. "Together," he urged. "We need to stand strong." Yet, just as resolve seemed to coat every soul like a hard shell, an ear-splitting scream ruptured the air, a sound that was too human, painted in shades of rage and despair. The very ground quaked beneath them, shadows clamoring, eager and insistent. The dim figure paused, flailing, its shape destabilizing as though fearing the light. "No!" it howled, rage surging and twisting. "Push harder." Dr. Moore's voice rang out, both command and plea. "Do not surrender." But around them, cracks appeared in their shared light, miniature voids swallowing fragments of their hope. The shadows snaked in closer, wrapping themselves around the echoes of courage, threatening to drown them once more. Amid the chaos, the laughter returned, louder and clearer, more sinister. What lay in the depths of the crowd's unfaced fears? What did this ominous figure represent? As the final flickers began to wane, Dr. Moore braced himself against the encroaching darkness, doubt creeping into his mind. Then, through the darkness, came whispers, truths they did not wish to face. What would they reveal? Just how far would the shadows go to keep its grip on their souls? The atmosphere thickened, a tangible dread that wrapped around them like a suffocating blanket. Shadows flickered, clawing desperately for remnants of light. Curiously, Dr. Moore found himself staring into the depths of that darkness, as if something within it were calling his name. Panic surged through the crowd, paralyzing them as murmurs of dread filled the air. "What are we doing?" a man shouted, his voice tinged with desperation. "This is insane! We can't fight that!" His hands trembled, betraying the fear boiling inside him. The woman beside Dr. Moore stepped up again, defiance etched on her face. "We must believe in each other," she cried, meeting the fearful gazes. "We can confront this nightmare together." A flicker of hope sparked, bouncing from face to face, but just as quickly, a thunderous laugh erupted, choking off all breath. The tall, shadowy figure writhed in pleasure, the sound reverberating through them, teasing, mocking their fragile bravery. "You think you can resist?" it sneered, a low growl that twisted with sinister delight. "I am born from your fears, your regrets. I will feast upon your despair until you are nothing." Dr. Moore felt his heart sink, fear clawing at his chest. "He is right," he shouted, panic igniting in his voice. "Just look at us. How can we fight what lives inside us?" The shadows snickered, coiling tighter. In that moment of despair, the crowd began to fracture, a palpable discontent sparking among them. Dr. Moore could sense a division forming, the whispers of fear slowly unfurling into accusations. Amid it all, the brave woman raised her voice even higher. Stop! This is exactly what it wants. We must not let it divide us. Her words rang like a bell, echoing through the thick fog of uncertainty. Stay united, Dr. Moore called, desperation spilling through each syllable. Remember your light. Your memories. Think of what makes you strong. Slowly, hesitantly, faces turned towards one another, searching for connection amid the darkness. A few started to share their fears aloud, hesitant whispers that bloomed into shared confessions. I lost my job, I never said goodbye, I was always too afraid. The shared vulnerability began to lighten the room, connecting them in their collective suffering. The shadows shrank back slightly, as if recoiling from the warmth of their honesty. The maleficent figure sneered again, but this time its voice lacked the certainty it once carried. You think vulnerability is strength? It will be your undoing. I will revel in every tear. But as if responding to the creature's challenge, the crowd lent each other its strength. With newfound courage, they began to chant, their voices rising together, "We are not alone. We are not alone." Dr. Moore could feel the pulse of the crowd shift, the air charged with energy. It became a lively crescendo, light shimmering off of exposed fears, revealing strength in their confession. Harder, he yelled, feeling exhilaration wash over him. Let it flow. We redeem ourselves through understanding. Yet, just as the light spread, there was a sudden silence, suffocating and eerie. The shadows pulsed in unison, and the figure loomed even closer, its eyes burning brighter with rage. You are foolish, it snarled. Your honesty will be your demise. Before anyone had the chance to react, tendrils shot forth, snatching at their legs like serpents ready to drag them back into oblivion. The brightness around them flickered, shadows growing heavier, threatening to consume the light and their fragile unity. Don't give up, the woman cried out again, but the fear pressed against them like a tidal wave, overwhelming and relentless. Dr. Moore fought against the darkness, heart racing, desperate for an answer. What revelation could turn the tide? Was this shared vulnerability truly enough to stand firm against such unyielding terror? As the shadows unleashed their final push, a potent whisper curled around Dr. Moore's mind, a truth yet unexplored. What is it that binds the shadows to our fears? The answer loomed precariously in the darkness, urging him to uncover the heart of their struggle. Would the truth they had so desperately concealed become their salvation or condemnation? Dr. Moore felt the tremors of the crowd beneath him. The tension was palpable, a taut wire ready to snap. The darkness pulsed, hungry and insatiable. Stay strong, he urged, his voice slicing through the oppressive silence. We have to push back together. But doubt flickered in his mind. Could vulnerability truly fend off such a grotesque nightmare? The flickering light dimmed. Shadows seemed to breathe, swirling closer, as if tasting their fear. Still, Dr. Moore caught sight of the brave woman amidst the throng, her expression a fierce beacon. It ignited something within him. They had shared their fears, their demons, a small step toward unity, a small chance to defy the consuming darkness. Let us do it, shouted a woman in the front, her eyes wide, glistening with tears. Let us find our strength in each other. Keep talking. Tell me your stories, Dr. Moore cried, rallying around the sound of their voices. One by one, individuals stepped into the light, speaking their truths. I felt alone after the loss of my son, a man began, his voice shaking. The weight of grief hung heavy, but as he spoke, the shadows slackened just a bit, as though acknowledging the ache of shared humanity. I did nothing when I could have saved my friend from addiction, a young woman confessed, her guilt spilling forth. Each admission was like a torch against the encroaching dark, the shadows shying away, recoiling. Dr. Moore clenched his fists. Keep going. Share your burdens. Make the shadows listen. Their bravery fueled a wave that rolled through the crowd. More voices joined in, revealing fears that gnawed at their insides, fears that made them hesitate to truly live. Little by little, the shadows shrank back as the vacuum of silence was filled with raw human emotion, but the dark entity surged, its figure darkening, contorting in rage. Foolish mortals! It shrieked, its echo assaulting their very souls. Your weakness will only draw me closer. I will savor every moment of despair. Not today, shouted the woman, her voice emboldened by their unity. You will not define us. We will face you with every ounce of light we've got. The shadows writhed at her resolute words, retreating in surprise, but bitterness flooded the atmosphere like vinegar in a wound. The creature's laughter morphed into a choked roar. You think this will save you? I will consume every shred of hope until you're nothing but husks. Dr. Moore felt the fear creeping back in, closer than ever. Something deeper was at stake, a truth yet untold. He forced himself to focus. What binds these shadows? The whispered question sharpened in his mind like a shard of glass. Then it hit him. They were feeding the creature with their fear, yes, but perhaps, just perhaps, what lay at the center of every fear, beneath the sorrow, was an untapped reservoir of resilience. Could heartache house the seeds of strength? With a sudden rush, Dr. Moore shouted against the rising swell of shadows. Reclaim your stories. Don't let them be your anchor. Transform your pain into power. We will rise more formidable than any darkness. Just then, a surge of warmth began to emanate from the crowd, a collective circle of light growing brighter, a brilliant sparking against the consuming blackness. But as the shadows twisted violently, threatening to fight back, a chilling silence fell once again. The air hung thick with tension, an oppressive weight that smothered their burgeoning hope. Would the light be strong enough to withstand the shadows' rage? The answer loomed ahead, just out of reach, waiting to burst forth. The shadows pulsed aggressively, their twisted forms growing more defined, as if they could sense their moment was near. Dr. Moore stood at the forefront, spine straight, heart hammering with hopeful defiance against fear's relentless tide. "This is it!" he shouted, unwilling to let despair take hold. "We choose to face our darkness. We can surrender to anguish, or we can transform into something more powerful." The crowd, slowly galvanizing in solidarity, began to murmur, soft voices knitting together like a fabric of determination. Each admission fed the flickering light of shared understanding. One by one, hands rose, stories broke free. "I lost my mother too soon," whispered a voice from the back, each word raw and trembling. Others began to nod and murmur in commiseration. "I didn't say goodbye?" Another added, fists clenching. "I live with the regret every day." With every confession, the shadows shimmered, their forms snapping and crackling as if stung by the warmth of hope. The woman beside Dr. Moore, her spirit unwavering, gripped his arm tightly, her own voice fierce and resolute. "We have the power to change the story. Let the light in!" Her declaration resonated, igniting more voices, swelling into a tide of shared pain and power. Together, we channel the love we lost. We transform sorrow. Dr. Moore commanded, embodying each resonant heartbeat of the audience. They were morphing into an unstoppable force, voices synchronizing like the pounding of a drum. "But they're coming!" Panicked whispers scattered through the room as the shadows clawed hungrily, snaking dangerously close. "What can we do?" "Fuel your light with memories of joy," Dr. Moore exclaimed, electricity crackling through him. "Hold on to it like a shield." And so they did. They pictured smiles, laughter shared under summer skies, embraces from missed loved ones, and the warmth of friendship. Each pooled memory ignited embers of light, brightening their spirits and shrinking the encroaching darkness. Dr. Moore felt the warmth radiate, laughter intermingling with tears, till it crescendoed into a unified roar. "We choose love. We choose life." As the final word reverberated, Something inside the crowd shifted, an ignition of raw emotion flowing outward, an undeniable tide pushing back against the shadows. Bright tendrils of their collective hearts stretched forth as a beacon of clarity that pulsed like the rhythm of life itself. The darkness shuddered, recoiling from the brightness, their laughter turning into growls of frustration. But the dark figure, more formidable than anything they had encountered, surged forward, a distortion of their past laced with malice. "You will regret this," it hissed, but the crowd tightened around each other, their fear replaced with a steely resolve. They stood together, hands interlocked, a barrier forged from the strength of shared humanity. "Ready?" Dr. Moore shouted, bolstered by their solidarity. "Let us push." "Yes," the young woman shouted, the anger in her voice lifting her presence, drawing strength from each person beside her. "Forward! We will end this now," Dr. Moore urged, the weight of conviction thick in his throat. As they closed the distance, the figures clashed violently, light against shadow. The dark spirals crackled with evil, writhing towards them, but just when it seemed hopeless, the embers of illumination erupted into a blinding light. The shadows faltered, screeching in unison, their malicious laughter fading into silence. With a final burst, the unified front surged forth, flooding the dark with warmth, dispelling the whispering shadows, scattering shards of darkness like leaves caught in a gust of wind. An eruption of color filled the hall, vivid, radiant hues of joy, love, and resilience that tinged the air like the smell of rain on dry earth. Breathless, they stood together in tranquility, the echoes of their voices still vibrating within them. The darkness had receded, leaving only light and the lingering warmth of shared courage. The young woman looked around, dazed, disbelief glimmering in her eyes. "We did it, we actually did it," she breathed. Dr. Moore nodded, heart swelling with a mixture of pride and relief. "Yes, we faced our fears and emerged together. This moment can define us from now on. Remember, this is just the beginning. Every day can be a testament to the strength we found here." The crowd erupted into cheers, the sound washing over them like a cleansing tide. Laughter rang bright, unfettered joy interlaced with the bittersweet weight of unforgotten grief, but now borne as a mark of their survival. In that moment, the young woman, still trembling slightly, felt something shift deep within her. The painful memories would remain, but they no longer chained her. They made her stronger, woven into the very fabric of who she was now. As they filed out into the open air, Dr. Moore felt an essence of hope flutter within him. Look how far they had come. A community born from shadows now united under the sun. "Remember," he said, voice full of warmth, "it's okay to face the darkness, for it only embodies what you choose to conquer. You are more powerful than you know." With one last glance at the quieted hall, he stepped forward with purpose, ready to guide them into a future built together on shared light, filled with possibility. The shadows were pushed back for now, but their lessons lived on, and he would stand beside them if they ever returned. But that day was filled with a radiant echo of resilience, a promise that together they would face whatever came next. So here's the moment. You need to subscribe now. Don't miss out on our next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now. Let us feed the algorithm and keep this community growing. I want to hear from you, so flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Show your support, you make a difference.